Welcome back to the deep dive. This time, we're going on a journey through the history of Hollywood.
Oh, Hollywood.
And we're going to uncover how this industry, known for, you think of Hollywood, you think of glitz and glamour,
Right.
but it's constantly reinvented itself to stay on top. From its surprisingly humble beginnings
Yeah.
to its global domination today.
Yeah.
And we'll be using the journey of Hollywood from Inception to present day as our roadmap for this deep dive. So whether you're a film buff or just a curious mind or just someone who loves a good story, this deep dive is for you.
It's fascinating, how we often think of Hollywood as this, untouchable giant.
Yeah.
But it's really a story of constant adaptation and evolution.
Okay, so rewind with me all the way back to the late 1800s.
Yeah.
And picture this. You're peering into a kinetoscope,
Wow.
one of Thomas Edison's inventions. It's basically a box with a peephole, and inside you see these flickering images, these tiny snippets of moving pictures.
It's hard to imagine that those early, almost primitive glimpses of motion were really the foundation of a global industry.
Yeah.
But it speaks volumes about our innate human desire for stories.
Totally.
Even in their simplest form, moving pictures captured our imaginations.
And those peep shows, as I like to call them,
Yeah, peep shows.
quickly evolved into public screenings thanks to the Lumiere brothers. Suddenly watching moving pictures became a shared experience, a communal event.
Exactly. And then just a few years later, in 1903, the Great Train Robbery bursts onto the scene. It's considered the first true narrative film,
Oh, wow.
a story told entirely through moving pictures. So this is where we see the birth of cinema as we know it, using techniques like montage,
Right.
which is a sequence of short shots to condense time and heighten the drama.
Okay, but here's where things get really interesting. Why California? Why did these early filmmakers pack up and head west?
Well, California offered several practical advantages. Abundant sunshine, obviously, for filming year-round. Diverse landscapes that could stand in for almost any location. And perhaps most importantly, freedom from Thomas Edison's kind of iron grip on the film industry back east. He controlled most of the patents and technology back then.
So it wasn't the allure of Hollywood glamour that drew them west. It was more about practicality and escaping Edison's monopoly.
Exactly. It was a strategic move. Little did they know they were setting the stage for a global entertainment empire.
That's so interesting.
Talk about a plot twist, right?
Now let's talk about the silent era, which often gets overlooked, but these films, you might be surprised to learn that these films, without any spoken dialogue, achieved global popularity. I mean, they were a truly universal language, weren't they?
Think about it. Emotions, actions, stories, conveyed entirely through visuals. Silent films transcended language barriers, making them accessible to audiences worldwide.
Right.
It's pure visual storytelling at its finest.
And this era gave us some of cinema's most enduring icons. We've got Charlie Chaplin, the master of physical comedy. Mary Pickford, America's sweetheart. Douglas Fairbanks, the original swashbuckling action hero.
And we can't forget D.W. Griffith's controversial The Birth of a Nation in 1915. While undeniably groundbreaking for its innovative filmmaking techniques, like the use of close-ups to emphasize emotion, its racist storyline is a stark reminder of the complexities and biases of the time.
It's interesting. How could a film with such a problematic messages be considered groundbreaking? It seems like a contradiction.
Well, it highlights a crucial point about Hollywood's history.
Yeah.
It's a tapestry woven with both brilliance and flaws. The Birth of a Nation, while technically innovative, also serves as a cautionary tale about the responsibility of storytelling and the potential for harm.
Right. It's a reminder that we need to look at these early films through a critical lens, acknowledging both their artistic contributions and their problematic aspects.
Precisely. It's a valuable lesson as we consider the evolution of representation and social responsibility in filmmaking over time.
Speaking of evolution, this era also gave birth to that iconic Hollywoodland sign erected in 1923. It's funny to think it started as just a real estate advertisement, not the global symbol of filmmaking dreams that it is today.
It's a testament to the power of symbols to evolve and acquire new meanings over time.
And let's not forget the birth of the star system during this era. Studios weren't just creating films, they were creating larger-than-life personalities. These stars weren't just actors, they were icons. These carefully crafted imagery designed to draw in audiences.
It was a brilliant marketing strategy that in a way foreshadowed the parasocial relationships we see today with celebrities and social media.
Oh, yeah.
Studios fueled the frenzy, crafting narratives around their stars' lives, creating a sense of intimacy and connection with fans decades before the internet.
Wow.
People weren't just watching films, they were invested in the lives of these silver screen idols.
It's amazing how those early strategies still resonate today, even in a completely different media landscape.
It speaks to the fundamental principles of marketing and audience engagement. Create a compelling narrative, build a connection, give people something to aspire to.
Now hold on to your hats, folks, because we're about to witness a seismic shift. The year is 1927, and the jazz singer arrives, forever changing the cinematic landscape.
The introduction of sound, or talkies, was a technological revolution that instantly made silent films obsolete.
Wow.
It's hard to overstate the impact of this innovation.
Imagine the challenges and opportunities. Suddenly, actors needed voices, scripts needed dialogue, and the entire production process was transformed.
It wasn't just about adding sound, it was about mastering a whole new way of storytelling. The advent of diegetic sound, sound that originates from within the film's world, create a new level of realism and immersion for audiences.
And this transition just happened to coincide with another major event, the Great Depression. Movies became a form of escape, a glimmer of hope and entertainment during a very difficult time, almost as if the world needed those talking pictures to lift their spirits.
Absolutely. Movies provided a sense of community, a shared experience that transcended individual struggles. They offered a window into other worlds, a temporary escape from the harsh realities of the time.
And this brings us to the 1930s and 40s, a period often referred to as Hollywood's Golden Age, a time of glamour, legendary films, and the rise of those powerful studios we still know today.
This is when the Big Five studios, MGM, Paramount, Warner Bros., 20th Century Fox, and RKO, really flexed their muscles. They controlled almost every aspect of the industry, from production to distribution. They were the gatekeepers, the tastemakers, the architects of Hollywood's Golden Age.
And during this era, legendary directors like Frank Capra, known for his heartwarming tales, Alfred Hitchcock, the master of suspense, and John Ford, who gave us iconic westerns. They weren't just making movies, they were shaping culture, influencing how we saw the world, and leaving their mark on cinematic history.
Their films weren't just entertainment, they were reflections of society, exploring themes of love, loss, hope, and the human condition. They gave us characters we could relate to, stories that resonated with our own lives, and a sense of shared experience that transcended individual differences.
And the stars of this era, Clark Gable, known for his charm and charisma, Katharine Hepburn, who redefined what it meant to be a strong female lead, and Humphrey Bogart, with his iconic trench coat and world-weary demeanor.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, their names are still synonymous with Hollywood glamour and talent.
They were just actors. They were embodiments of certain ideals, archetypes that captured our imaginations and left an enduring legacy. You know, their performances, their on-screen personas became part of our collective cultural memory.
Think about some of the most iconic films ever made. We've got Gone with the Wind, a sweeping historical epic, The Wizard of Oz, a Technicolor masterpiece that transported us to a world of fantasy, and Casablanca, a timeless romantic drama that still makes us swoon.
These films weren't just box office successes. They were cultural touchstones, stories that captured the zeitgeist of their time and continue to resonate with audiences today.
And let's not forget Hollywood's role during World War II. They produced propaganda films, training reels for soldiers, and those incredible USO tours that boosted morale and entertained troops. It really highlights how the industry could be harnessed for purposes beyond pure entertainment.
Absolutely. It demonstrates the power of storytelling to influence opinions, shape perspectives, and even contribute to national unity during times of crisis. You know, Hollywood, for all its glamour and escapism, could also be a tool for social change and mobilization. It could also be a tool for social change and mobilization.
But even amidst this golden age, a new challenger appeared on the scene: television.
Oh, television.
It was a game changer that would force Hollywood to adapt or become obsolete.
Right.
Yes. The arrival of TV in the post-war era really shook things up. Suddenly people had entertainment right in their living rooms. So how did Hollywood respond to this new rival?
Well, by innovating, of course.
Yeah.
They had to offer audiences something they couldn't get at home, on those tiny black and white screens. This is when we see the rise of widescreen formats like CinemaScope,
Okay.
which created a much more immersive viewing experience.
It was all about spectacle, right? Making movies bigger and more epic
Exactly.
to lure people away from their TV sets.
Exactly. They even experimented with 3D, trying to create a truly immersive experience.
Wow.
And the transition to color became widespread, adding another layer of visual richness to storytelling.
It was a visual feast for the eyes. And this era also saw the rise of a new generation of stars. Marilyn Monroe with her, undeniable allure, James Dean, the embodiment of youthful rebellion, and Marlon Brando, who revolutionized acting with his intensely realistic method acting.
Oh, yeah.
They brought a rawness and an emotional depth to the screen that audiences hadn't seen before.
They weren't just actors. They were cultural icons who reflected the changing values and anxieties of the post-war era. And speaking of change, films also started tackling more mature and sometimes controversial themes, mirroring the societal shifts of the time.
It's as if the movies were holding up a mirror to society, reflecting our hopes, fears, and anxieties. So what are some films that really captured this changing landscape?
Well, there's Rebel Without a Cause,
Mm.
which explored the alienation and disillusionment of teenagers in the 1950s.
Okay.
Then you have Ben-Hur, a historical epic of incredible scale and spectacle, and of course, Alfred Hitchcock's Psycho, which redefined the horror genre with its psychological depth and shocking twists.
Oh, yeah.
These films pushed boundaries and challenged conventions, both technically and thematically.
But while these changes were happening on screen, a major legal shift was taking place behind the scenes. The 1948 Supreme Court ruling in United States v. Paramount Pictures really shook things up, didn't it?
It was a landmark decision that forced studios to divest their theater chains, breaking their vertical integration and weakening their control over the industry.
So if studios couldn't own theaters anymore, how did they get their movies to audiences? That must have been a huge shakeup.
It was a pivotal moment that paved the way for independent filmmakers and a more diverse range of voices. It created a more competitive landscape, challenging the dominance of the big studios and fostering a new era of creativity and experimentation.
So it wasn't just about who controlled the screens anymore. It was about who had the most compelling stories to tell.
Precisely. And this shift in power led us into the 1970s and what many consider the era of New Hollywood.
New Hollywood. Tell us about these auteurs who took center stage. What made them so different?
These were directors like Martin Scorsese, Steven Spielberg, George Lucas, and Francis Ford Coppola. They brought a fresh perspective and a strong personal vision to their films.
So they weren't just studio directors churning out formulaic products. They were artists who pushed boundaries and challenged conventions.
Yep.
So they weren't just making movies. They were making statements. Their personal styles and artistic visions were front and center.
Exactly. They weren't afraid to experiment, to tackle complex and often controversial themes, and to connect with audiences on a more emotional level.
Let's talk about some of those groundbreaking films that came out of New Hollywood. I'm thinking The Godfather, which not only revived the gangster genre, but elevated it to a whole new level with its complex characters and operatic scope. And then you have Jaws, which basically invented the summer blockbuster as we know it.
Jaws was a masterclass in suspense and tension building. Spielberg's use of music, camera work, and pacing created a visceral experience for audiences, making them feel like they were right there in the water with that terrifying shark.
And then there's Star Wars, which completely blew our minds with its revolutionary special effects and created a whole new world that audiences could get lost in. George Lucas wasn't just making a movie, he was building a mythology, a universe that extended far beyond the screen.
Star Wars showed the power of world building and franchise storytelling. It tapped into our collective fascination with myths and archetypes, creating characters and storylines that resonated with audiences of all ages.
It's amazing how those films from the 1970s still hold up today. They haven't aged a bit.
It's a testament to the power of good storytelling and strong artistic vision. You know, those directors weren't just chasing trends. They were creating timeless works of art that transcended their time.
Okay, let's fast forward to the 1980s and 90s, the era of the blockbuster. This is when movies got bigger, louder, and more packed with special effects than ever before.
This era was all about spectacle, about pushing the boundaries of what was possible on screen. Technological advancements, savvy marketing, and a whole lot of explosions became the norm.
It was the age of sequels, franchises, and merchandise galore. Star Wars really changed the game in this regard, didn't it?
It did.
It wasn't just a movie. It was a cultural phenomenon that spawned toys, video games, books, and a whole extended universe.
Star Wars showed the incredible potential for cross-platform storytelling and merchandising. It created a model that countless other films would try to emulate.
And who can forget those iconic films, like E.T. the Extraterrestrial, which captured our hearts with its story of friendship and wonder, or Jurassic Park, which brought dinosaurs to life with groundbreaking CGI effects.
Jurassic Park was a game changer in terms of visual effects. It showed that CGI could be used to create realistic and believable creatures, opening up a whole new world of possibilities for filmmakers.
And then there's Titanic, which became a global phenomenon and held the record for highest grossing film of all time for over a decade.
Wow.
It was a sweeping, epic romance that resonated with audiences worldwide.
Titanic was a masterclass in storytelling, blending history, romance, and special effects to create a truly immersive and emotional experience.
But while these blockbusters were dominating the box office, another major shift was happening. VHS tapes and then DVDs brought movies into our homes, changing how we watched films, and giving us more control over our viewing experience.
It was a revolution in terms of accessibility and convenience. No longer did you have to wait for a movie to come to TV or play at your local theater. You could watch it whenever you wanted, as many times as you wanted, in the comfort of your own home.
It was a game changer. But it also raised concerns about piracy and its impact on box office revenues. Suddenly, movies were being copied and shared illegally, which posed a real threat to the traditional distribution model.
It was a challenge that the industry would have to grapple with for years to come, as technology continued to evolve and new forms of distribution emerged. And
evolve it did. Let's step into the 21st century, where Hollywood takes on a whole new global scale. Franchises like Harry Potter, The Lord of the Rings, and The Avengers become worldwide phenomena, captivating audiences across cultures and languages.
Globalization was a key driver in this era. These films tapped into universal themes of good versus evil, heroism, and adventure, blending them with cutting-edge special effects and compelling characters. They created worlds that people everywhere wanted to escape to.
It's mind-boggling to think about the sheer reach of these films, how they connected with people from all walks of life, regardless of their background or language.
It really highlights the power of cinema to transcend borders and create shared experiences. These films became cultural touchstones, sparking conversations and fostering connections across the globe.
And then, of course, we have the rise of streaming platforms like Netflix, Amazon Prime, and Disney+. They completely disrupt the traditional models of filmmaking and distribution, shaking things up in ways we're still trying to understand.
Streaming platforms have been a game changer in so many ways. They've democratized content creation, giving a voice to filmmakers from diverse backgrounds who might not have had access to traditional studio systems.
It's incredible to think that anyone with a good story and a camera can potentially reach a global audience through these platforms. It's opened up a whole new world of possibilities for filmmakers and audiences alike.
And it's also led to a surge in high-quality television programming, blurring the lines between film and TV in exciting ways. Shows like Stranger Things, Squid Game, and The Crown have captured our imaginations with their complex characters, intricate storylines, and cinematic production values.
It's like the golden age of television is happening right now, and streaming platforms are driving that evolution. And speaking of evolution, we can't talk about the 21st century without acknowledging the increasing importance of representation and diversity on screen.
It's been a long time coming, but we're finally seeing more films and TV shows that reflect the diversity of our world. Films like Black Panther and Everything Everywhere All at Once have shattered box office records and won critical acclaim, proving that audiences are hungry for stories that represent a wider range of experiences and perspectives.
It's not just about representation for representation's sake. It's about telling authentic and compelling stories that resonate with people from all walks of life. And when those stories are told well, they have the power to change hearts and minds, challenge stereotypes, and create a more inclusive and understanding world.
Absolutely. Representation matters, both in front of and behind the camera. When people see themselves reflected on screen, it validates their experiences and empowers them to tell their own stories.
But the 21st century hasn't been without its challenges for Hollywood. The COVID-19 pandemic, as we all know, accelerated digital releases and disrupted theater attendance, forcing the industry to adapt yet again.
It was a seismic shift that highlighted both the fragility and the resilience of the industry. Theaters were forced to close, productions were shut down, and the entire release schedule was thrown into chaos.
It really made us realize how much we take those shared experiences for granted. Going to the movies with friends, sharing a laugh, a gasp, a tear in the dark. It's a communal experience that can't be fully replicated at home.
But the industry adapted, embracing streaming platforms and finding new ways to connect with audiences. It proved once again that Hollywood is nothing if not resourceful and adaptable.
It's like a phoenix, constantly rising from the ashes, reinventing itself to meet the challenges of the times.
Precisely. And as we look to the future, the possibilities seem endless. Advancements in technology, like artificial intelligence, virtual reality, and augmented reality, are opening up new frontiers for storytelling and immersive experiences.
It's mind-blowing to think about what the future holds. We could be stepping into the movies, not just watching them, interacting with characters and environments in ways we can only imagine right now.
The boundaries between reality and fiction could become increasingly blurred, creating new challenges and opportunities for filmmakers and audiences alike. The very definition of what constitutes a movie might evolve, pushing us to reimagine the art of storytelling.
It's both exciting and a little daunting to think about. But one thing's for sure. Hollywood will continue to evolve, to find new ways to captivate us, transport us to other worlds, and tell stories that resonate with our hearts and minds.
Absolutely. The desire to share stories, to connect with others through shared experiences, is fundamental to the human experience. And Hollywood, in all its iterations, has been a master at tapping into that desire.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, let's take a moment to appreciate the incredible journey Hollywood has taken. From those humble beginnings with people viewers to the global phenomenon it is today, it's a story of innovation, resilience, and a constant striving to capture the magic of the moving image.
It's a story that reminds us of the enduring power of storytelling and the ways in which it shapes our world.
It's been quite a ride. But before we sign off, I want to turn it over to our listener. What era or aspect of Hollywood history resonated with you the most? What surprised you? What stories sparked your curiosity?
As you continue to explore the world of Hollywood, we encourage you to think critically about the films you watch, the stories they tell, and the impact they have on our culture and society.
Because Hollywood isn't just about entertainment. It's a reflection of who we are, where we've been, and where we're going. It's a powerful force that shapes our perceptions, influences our values, and sparks our imaginations.
So keep exploring,
Yeah.
keep questioning, and keep those popcorn buckets filled.
That's it for our deep dive into Hollywood. We hope you've enjoyed the journey and discovered some new insights along the way. Until next time, keep learning and keep those conversations going.